Hi, this is Isabel Litzler. I hope you're doing well today on this Facebook Live for November. So today's topic is about Swiss job trends for expats. A lot of people coming to Switzerland need some information on the market and knowing where the jobs are. So what I wanted to do in this video or this presentation is to give you the general trends that I've researched, based on my attendance in different events in the last couple of months. Then I will talk more about job trends, and finally Swiss job trends. So it's really going in a funnel type of manner, like what's the market like, and then going to the Swiss market. So feel free to interrupt me. You can ask a question on the Q&A and I will be very happy to answer. That's the idea, is that you interact with me, that you also tell me what you're interested in knowing more about. Do you want to hear more about those kinds of things? Is there something else you would like to see? Really, the idea is to have an exchange and to be productive for you. So without any further ado, let's get started on the general trends. So I really recommend, if you live in Switzerland right now, that you buy some of those economy business magazines, because that will give you a lot of information on the job trends and the market in general, which I find a lot of expats don't know because new to Switzerland. So the best way to know the market is to read those magazines and to find out, what are some of the companies coming, what are some of the, is there purchases or mergers, or, what kind of skills. This is where you will find it. So there's a big magazine in the French part of Switzerland called PME Magazine. So it's like small business magazine, and I find it very, very interesting because it gives you a lot of information about jobs as well. So the general trends that I see in Switzerland, again on employment in general, is that it's going also, and this is starting already in the English-speaking countries, it's going towards a gig economy. So in Switzerland, it's a little bit different than in other places where you still have 90%, this is what the survey was saying, 90% of salaried employees in Switzerland. So it's still fairly long-term salaried employment, but there's definitely this trend of the gig economy. So what do I mean by that? Where you work, for example, on a website, you become a freelancer and you give your services on websites, on those platforms for freelancers. That's gig. You get paid for a task. For example, if you go to a website like Fiverr, people pay for a logo or for copywriting, etc. It's per task that you get paid. So the gig economy, the USA, USA is going up, and definitely in the USA, for example, it's 33% in 6 years expected growth. So that gives you a little bit of the tone of where it's going. So I've been saying this now for a while, that we're definitely going a freelancer economy. I was really believing and convinced that that was going to be the future. Some people were making a little bit fun of me, saying, no, there's still some value in long-term employment, salaried workers, etc. I just think that it's definitely a trend on both ends. I think people want more flexibility. Employer now, and I will get to that in a minute, want also more flexibility and having people to work on tasks. So gig economy is definitely number one trend you can write down. Number two, the interim. So interim is people working via an agency. So you are sent to a company to work on a project, for example, and you work via an agency. So that's interim employment, it's called. So that's going up as well, plus 10% every year, says the survey in the magazine I'm talking about. So that's the other trend you can take into account, is more interim. So definitely, if you're looking for a job and you've been always working in permanent contracts, really consider the fact that even if you work, for 2 months somewhere, it's a foot in the door, and it's definitely now not seen as a bad point. I remember when I started my career, there was this idea that people that were short-term employees were not as good as the long-term permanent contract employees. It's no longer the case. You will have more and more people now that have done many things, especially interim work. So it's definitely seen actually as normal now. So that's the second trend. The third trend is that we have these new jobs, I call them data scientists and developers. So they're also part of this tech industry that's growing. So these jobs are actually getting more and more popular. So if you're looking at which careers, which jobs are actually trending, you will see data scientists. You can type it on Google and you will see it's the hottest job probably at the moment. So it's the person that's going to analyze data online, because now what a lot of companies are doing in terms of their strategy to make money, their business model, is that they're recuperating your data. I mean, think about what Facebook and all these places, what they offer is that they have so much data based on what you put inside the social media, that now they can use all this data to provide services for you and to know your taste, you know, for online purchasing, etc. So it's a huge value for a company to have data and taper and leverage this data. So that's why these jobs are going to be very hot in the future. If you're someone who can really dig down into tons of data, make sense of it, and you're trained for that, you will have a job. So that's number 3 in terms of trends. Number 4 is that there will be a lot of new jobs that we don't even know what they are. So 35% of jobs in 10 years do not exist yet. That was the figure. So 35% is a huge figure. So that means right now when we're talking together, we have all these jobs out there, all these potential things that will be created that we don't even know. So the question is, you know, I would like to tap into this market and I don't know what it is. So you can use what you have right now as information. So you know, data scientists, data is definitely the big trend of the 21st century. So anything linked to managing data, marketing with data, etc., will probably be quite in demand in the next years. So that's the number 4 in terms of the research done by this magazine. So something to keep into account. Now, in terms of the jobs of tomorrow and what the trends are, I also went to a conference where it was discussed in terms of training, what employees will need to know more of and how they prepare themselves. So some of the things that I wrote down in terms of orientation for tomorrow, basically, is that we'll go more into a per task type of work. So right now we're working with job description. So to get hired, you look at a job description, you send your resume. So an employee, basically, an employer needs an accountant. So you need to do certain things linked to accounting. Same thing with marketing, you need to market in a certain way. In the future, it will be more the tasks. So maybe as an employer, I need you to write a report. And then next week I need you to, I don't know, create a database, you know, so completely different things. Maybe you're not the same person that's going to do the job, hence the whole idea of gig economy. On Monday I need Susie to do the data, and then on Wednesday I need John to do the spreadsheet, etc. So that shows how you're going to have to be very flexible in terms of how you work. It's not going to be a job description anymore. So we're going to work with tasks and not so much job descriptions. Skills will definitely need to be less specialized, which is good news, because at the moment we're in a very highly specialized market, especially in Switzerland. If I want to connect with Switzerland on this presentation, I mean, it's uttermost specialist. I mean, you have someone that does one thing very particularly, and that's how people make their money, because they're known as the expert in this particular field. Well, the trend is going the other way. The trend is saying we will need more generalists. We will need people that know a little bit of everything. They will be more valued. So it's good news for the non-typical profiles, the jack of all trades, as we say, that weren't very popular in the last years or in the market because they were too general. So it's good news for you guys if you're watching this video and you're someone who's done a bit of everything. In the future, you'll be more demanded because you'll be more flexible also. You know, if your employer asks you to work on accounting on Monday and marketing on Tuesday, etc., you'll be able to do this. A lot of specialists, unless they really change their mindset, will have more difficulties, I guess, to change. Number 3, in terms of study done by this foundation, was the jobs are definitely going to be more autonomous. So that's actually good news as well, because who wants to be micromanaged by a manager? And I think most people would agree that autonomy is a good thing. You know, you'll be able to do your job a little bit with more freedom. So that's good news. Also more well-rounded, so that goes with more generalists. Again, you'll need to know a little bit of everything rather than just be too much of a specialist. So I'm making the connection also with another presentation done by a human resources expert, what's talking about the assessment of the profiles of the employees. Basically, one of the trends also that's definitely linked to this being a little bit more general We won't necessarily want someone who's good in finance, who can do accounting and treasury and so forth. We also want someone who knows marketing, who knows supply chain. So we're going definitely much broader. So we're going from a market now that's definitely super specialized, even within a unit, to in the future we'll need people that are super general. So they will need to understand pretty much everything that's going on in the company and probably be mobile within this company. So I wanted to say this because I think it's so far from what we have right now that I think it's definitely something to keep in mind. You know, if we're going to transition from super specialists to super generalists, you know, we will need probably a few years, some time to really make that switch. Education will also be central in this new age, because right now we're just going to do a degree, you know, or continuing education, but it's usually to be even more specialized within the same market or the same jobs. In the future, education will really be constant. So in this talk that we have with other specialists, when we're talking about the jobs of tomorrow, the idea came up that we might have like a chatbot. So it would be artificial intelligence that we communicate with directly, and this chatbot will help us also, will train us basically. So it will be like an online coach 24/7, you know, that helps us you know, understand different technologies and different things. So right now we're already starting to do it. I was talking yesterday with someone. I mean, when we want something now, who goes into YouTube and types how to fix such and such in your computer? Raise your hand, you know. I had a camera problem the other day. How to fix a camera on a laptop? You get the answer. Someone has done a video on it. How do you do a Facebook campaign? Go on YouTube and you type it, get the answer. I mean, obviously it's a little bit, it's not tailor customized to your need exactly, but it's already there. If you type in Google how to do such and such, you get an answer. So we already have this connection with technology where we get immediate answers. So the trend is definitely going to be, imagine this, but even more specialized to your need. So you will have a companion, a little bit like Alexa right now that you have, or Siri on your iPhone, but imagine that with more technology, more knowledge, like the companion or personal assistant that will be able to train you every day. And that's going to be actually easy then, because right now you have to log, you have to go into a training, probably take time out of work to do it. You know, even if it's internal to the company, you still have to go to meet probably people and take time off your desk. I mean, in the future, you will have this chatbot or this artificial intelligence that walks you through what you need to know. So education will be changed. Huge gap, I mean, huge growth, amazing. So what it means to you, if I summarize this first part on the general trends for employment. So number one, more gig economy, per task economy, project-based economy. So that means if you're really attached right now to the permanent, full-time, long-term type of work, it's definitely not the trend. So people will work more on demand. So it's something I've already, again, sensed a few years back already. Number two, you will need to have many skills, be well-rounded in different topics. So that means probably more ongoing knowledge and training. So you can't just sit on your specialist skills, which a lot of people right now are able to have great careers on specialist skills. In the future, they need to become a little bit more broader within the organization, and probably be willing also to be plugged wherever they're needed. And the last trend is to also develop more soft skills. So all this together, becoming a more well-rounded person, more generalist, and also being able to connect the dots, which right now not very many people, and I include myself, when I was working for a company before, I was uttermost specialist, as most people, in connecting the dots is something that takes this mental gymnastics almost, where you say, okay, there's this going on in accounting, this going on in supply chain and in HR, and this is the solution because such and such, because I've connected everything. So not many people can do this right now. Everyone is working in silos, in their domains. They know their stuff, but then you talk to them about what's going on in accounting. If you work in HR, which was my case, big blank. You know, we have no idea. So in the future, because we will be more trained, you know, to think cross-functional and bigger picture, I think we will be able to solve probably more problems that right now we're not solving. So that's good news. So before, yeah, so less work in silo, that's definitely the case. People will have also more self-awareness. This is going to be a huge skill in the next years. So self-awareness means that you know your skills, you know what you're good at, and therefore you will be used in the company, so to say, in the right places. So right now people are not necessarily sure of what it is that they want, you know, where they want to go. So the whole idea of skills assessment, knowing yourself, being coached, all these things that before you would do maybe only when you lose your job. That's when you say, okay, maybe I should review my skills and get a coach or get someone to help me. I think this is going to be ingrained in the culture, in the employment culture, where people will much easier go see a coach and, you know, ask for help, get support. So it won't be something that that you do maybe only once or twice in your lifetime. It will be ongoing, and to have someone also help you with these changes. So flexibility is definitely going to be a key word there. People will have this working together more in teams, you know, per task, etc. So these are some of the general trends. So before I move to the next part of the presentation, is there any questions about the general trends on employment? And of course it is lunchtime, so I'm sure a lot of people are hungry right now. So maybe some people watch this video a little bit later as a replay. And if you have a question, you can post it below the presentation on Facebook or on YouTube, because it will go on YouTube as well. So if you have a question and you watch this video on replay, you can also post it below and I will answer. All of these things that I'm talking about were taken from magazines. I'm not sure if they're still online, because sometimes the magazine will only post for a while, or then you need the access. But I will make the reference also of where I found this information, so you can also maybe in the future know that this is where you get information on employment. So on job trends now, what do we have? Because I think this is the to narrow down more to actual jobs and functions. This is a big one for a lot of people, especially younger people, because you have to find your orientation at a young age usually, and you don't necessarily have all the tools to do so. I mean, if you're young, you only have maybe your university counselor, your parents, and you have to make a decision, you know, what do I study and what are the jobs? I think now more and more schools are actually proposing or offering some support in terms of career counseling, but it's still a difficult one. And also, as I just said, we don't have the visibility on 35% of jobs that are going to be created, and no one has this visibility anywhere, nor the employers or counselors or what have you. So it's a little bit of trying to guess as much as we can with the information that we have. And I do think we have enough to make a little bit of an assumption. And you know, think about what I just said. So when you think about the jobs of the future, so this is what I regrouped, you know, in terms of my research that I've done online as well. So definitely a huge area where there will be some growth, and you can write that down. It's going to be in the STEM function. So STEM means for science, tech, engineering, and math. So if you go in any of those four things, you will probably have a job when you graduate, and a good job, you know, a high-paying job. That's the idea. Of course, this is more the science part, so some people may not enjoy the math and the science, you know, everyone is different. Then the flip side to that, I would say, is design. So anything that's highly creative. There will also be some need for creative people and, you know, imaginative people. So I think both will be valued, used for different things. But if you're someone who's just wondering, I have no idea what I should be studying, you know, I want to do a master's or I want to go back to school, try to take into account those four fields, because it will be less pain to look for a job when you graduate. So the big trend, the STEM jobs, anything linked to medical field is also going to be a trend, because people are aging and we're living longer. But people are aging, a lot of people are sick as well. You know, we are dealing with a lot of health issues due to a lot of different reasons. But anyone working in health will have a job. So going from the doctor, I mean, anything basically that you cure in your body. But if you go for a medical field, you're pretty sure that you will have a job. Now, just take into account the mobility part, because that's what I said in my other video about portable careers. If you stay in the country where you studied or within the region where you studied, if I'm thinking Europe, for example, probably you can move your job. But if you're worldwide, and you're a doctor in the US, for example, you can practice in France or in Switzerland. So you just have to be careful, the mobility that you want in your career. And if you're looking for something portable, just look, really research before the type of role and where you could practice in the world, if it's the type of job that's highly localized and you can practice anywhere else. I would really doubt whether that's the right career for you, especially if you plan on traveling or living in different places. But that's number 2 trend, is the medical jobs. Engineers already talked about, it's part of the STEM. Now there's these jobs around being an author and a speaker. That's actually more and more the case now, where people are doing this type of work. I suppose it's a little bit linked to the online businesses. I think now a lot of people, especially the ones who want to become freelancers, that's a huge trend. A lot of people now are saying, I'm just going to start my business online. And what do they do online? There's a bunch of things you can do, but being an author and a speaker and a coach also, those are some of the things that you can do within your expertise area. And it's exportable as well. So if you're a coach or a speaker in Switzerland, you can definitely do that in the US. You can definitely do that in Asia or whatever. You just need to log on online, and your client's base could be anywhere. So there's the beauty of it, is that it's definitely a worldwide portable job that you can do from anywhere. So I think anything linked to online websites where you can sell your services direct, C2C or B2C, I think it's growing. It's definitely growing. So to be a little bit more particular, what I see again on my research based on what's growing and what's declining, if you need to make a decision. So anything linked to business and financial operation is always going to be there, especially in Switzerland, where you have a lot of banks and stuff like that. But here it's general still, wherever you're at in the world. Management, computer and math, architecture and engineering, sales, education and training, especially linked to what I said before. People will need to be trained all the time. So there will be a huge growth area for people who will work on online trainings, etc., etc. Now, the losers of the whole jobs of tomorrow, so places that won't have as much opportunity, so to say, anything linked to office and admin jobs. And I know that's going to be the case for a lot of people, because there's a lot of admin assistants out there, executive assistants, officers, especially in international development in Switzerland. You have a lot of, I would say, white-collar admin jobs. So these people will be affected, because the more you automate those jobs, the less need there will be. So the whole middle management, I would say officer, middle management will be affected probably in the next years. Now, anything linked to manufacturing and production, so I would say all the automated jobs already, machinery type of jobs, that's going to be even more automated. There's also a little bit of a downplay with entertainment and media. Now a lot of things are also online. I mean, who reads now, for example, a newspaper? I mean, now you get your news via a feed. Maybe you connect on your favorite magazines online. So that changes also the economy of media and communications. All the jobs with legal, that's also going to change, because a lot of jobs, especially the ones right now that are preparing, I'm not talking about maybe the lawyer that's presenting in court, where there might still be a need in the future, but I'm talking about people preparing maybe the files and all the admin around the lawyer. Those jobs could also be easily automated. And so if you're someone who wants to be in legal support, just know that this is a risk area. This job may be automated in the future. People can get access to the information quickly, and you could probably apply that as well to real estate, insurance, all these jobs where that's quite intense on labor, on preparation of files. And of course, I already see this happening right now with logistics and installation. I mean, now you don't really communicate with anyone when you order something. I mean, you click on a button, you purchase, and you get it delivered to your house, and it's all automated. There's very few times when you talk to someone on the phone. So usually the customer support will be done via email. It's rarer and rarer now where you actually talk to individuals, customer service, for example, online, you know, on the phone. I mean, you still have them in a few industries, but it's not a growing field. So if you're a customer service rep, or, you know, a job where you call people on the phone, or marketing, you know, sales reps, I would say danger zone probably in the future. That could be automated. So here we go. You have the picture of what I think based on my research and what I found. Some of the jobs that I think will have a chance, and the ones where I wouldn't go if I were to pick a career right now to work on. So I'm looking, still no questions asked. Okay. So in terms of what I find in Switzerland, so Switzerland is quite an interesting market because there's a lot of variety. Obviously, you have different regions. So you have the Zurich region, the Geneva region, and many others, many languages as well. So in a way, it's quite a complex market for expats because you think, okay, I speak English, you know, I'll go with the idea that people listening to this video will be mostly English speakers or looking for English speaking jobs. So it's quite a complex market because it's hard really to define, you know, what is really the market, you know, what are some of the jobs where there's a future and there's hiring going on, because it's quite a vivid market. I mean, if you think about Switzerland, there's a very low unemployment rate, so there's definitely positions that fill up and opportunities. But the question is, you know, how do you fit into those opportunities when you're coming from the outside? You know, there's opportunities, but you don't know how to tap into them. So of course there's different reasons, and it would take a long time to get into the how to find a job in Switzerland, which is something that I do with my coaching, and I really walk people through the process. So for today's perspective, it's more about what are some of the industries that are growing and where you have a chance to get a job, especially as an English speaker. So the first industry that I see as a growing industry and potential industry is hospitality, because Switzerland is still a country where there's a lot of traveling going on. People come, there's a lot of marketing for five-star hotels. Of course, the regions are all beautiful. You have lakes, mountains, so it's a mixture of the perfect place to come to have a holiday. You know, you can go to the mountains, go to the lake, enjoy a nice relaxing time in a hotel. So for a lot of people, it's still number one destination for travel. So that means as job seeking, you know, you can find jobs in hospitality, and that's a whole range of positions, you know, again, hotel, entertainment for foreigners, travel, etc. So there will always be this market that's there, I think, that will keep, you know, recruiting, because travel to Switzerland is not going to stop. You know, people will want to enjoy the mountains and the lakes, so it's quite of a stable industry. Number two trend, and this is a little bit more city based, is IT. So if you're looking for a role or job in a city, if you plan on living in a city, you will find a lot of positions in IT, because a lot of companies will need IT, especially in the future where it becomes more and more automated, more and more techy. So companies will invest, and it's going also to be their strength is to have a good IT systems. So anything linked to web development, security, huge growth in web security. So if you specialize in those fields, you will always have a job. So that's definitely something that you want to think about. Now, the other thing in Switzerland also that's doing very well is fiduciary. So anything with, you know, the Swiss tend to have needs for accountants. Also, you know, as a company, you need an accountant usually. So anything with fiduciary, they help you set up your business, etc. There's a big need. Now, the catch-22 is that usually you need to speak the local language unless they cater to foreigners. But most places, I think the closer you are to speaking the local language, the better. So for the first two I mentioned, hospitality and IT, if you speak English and then a little bit of another language, I think you can live by. But for a fiduciary, I think you need to speak more the local language. But that's also a growing field, basically. The next one is mechanical engineering. So that's something that's also growing, and the reason is mechanical engineering is used for the watchmaking as well. So they always need good people that can work, because they need to hire younger staff to come on board to replace the one going to retire. And don't forget that Switzerland is an aging country. So all the industries that are flourishing, they will need to replace the job. So mechanical engineering, which can be used for watchmaking, for example, there will always be a space for this kind of function. The next one is transportation. It was a little bit linked to hospitality. I linked it because I thought, trains and planes and all these things, they need staff all the time. They hire all the time. So if you work in those fields, obviously there's a good chance in Switzerland to find a job. The next one is construction. There's a lot of building up happening a little bit all over. Actually, it's not just Switzerland. I've noticed that in many places, basically where we're growing. I mean, human beings, we're more and more of us. So there's a need for apartments and more restaurants, more malls, things like that. So it's growing definitely, and needs to build up. I mean, cities are expanding. That's a reality. So if you work in construction, whether it's the actual manual work or more the engineering part or architecture, etc., they will need, in the future, they will need to build the cities and expand. So that's a good field to be in as well. This one I already mentioned when I talk about the general trends. It's the health sector. And especially in Switzerland, because in Switzerland, there's definitely, it's known for pharma. Switzerland has a reputation for pharma and for high tech in pharma and the medical treatments. So a lot of people come to Switzerland from other countries to get cured, because Switzerland has very little waiting period. They have the best specialists in the world for all kinds of treatments. So people are willing to pay the extra money to get treated in Switzerland. So therefore, if you're a professional in many different health fields, probably you can get a job in Switzerland. Of course, you would need to prepare your expatriation, and there's the permit issue and all that. But I'm just saying, in terms of potential, there will be position openings for medical treatment. And also it's logical, because it's an aging population, there will be a lot of potential for elderly care. So anything linked to homes, nursery homes, elderly care and all that, huge potential. So that's for the health sector. If you're a technician, that's the next one, technicians. Switzerland is actually a country where there's a need for very basic, if I can call it, a very basic need. People need their faucet unplugged, and they need their... I see messages all the time. People are looking for services on all these different things. So there's a market in Switzerland definitely for someone who's quite agile and who can fix things up, and even good technicians, whether it's in the jewelry industry or, working in watchmaking or what have you. They need good technicians, people who can do some jobs like this, repeatedly and be happy to do it. There will be a need, and the next one is teaching in Switzerland. There's an aging population, but there's also a need, because children, of course, start school quite early, and that's the case in many countries. So you need preschool teachers, you need also supporting teachers, because now kids sometimes need extra help, because they don't really follow up in school, or they need, it's based on what I was saying earlier when I say we will be accompanied more and more on our training. So we will have probably more customized work also with students, with youngsters, not just in companies. There will be more adapted training to everybody. So if kids need special training because maybe they have a different learning ability or something like that, there will be jobs for that, to take care of kids that need the extra support, that maybe different methods, things like that. So teaching, in my view, is definitely a growing field. There's also the Montessori training that's used in Switzerland, where they're also hiring. So that's just an example of the type of things that we will see more and more of. It's special programs, special education, all that stuff will grow. So if you're in that field, there's some potential for you. The next one is top managers, or even middle managers. But I think with new technologies coming up, we will have less and less, as I said, going from the base to the middle management. I think the jobs will be mostly senior managers in the future, because, you know, again, we won't need as much middle managers because we will be using technology and working online, and you know, you won't need necessarily someone to do the distribution of the tasks and stuff in the middle. But for the senior managers, for top management, there will be a need. You know, people who become also, who launch startups. We need founders, we need entrepreneurs. So because you also need, as a country, to have this growing economy, and to have a growing economy, you need creative people, you need entrepreneurs, people who come up with new ideas. You can't just sit on, okay, we've done watchmaking the same way for the last 100 years. You need to come up, you know, as competition rises, you need to come up with new, different models, different techniques. So you need people who found companies. So if you're someone who's highly creative and you're the founder type, you've already maybe founded some companies where you live, you will be wanted in Switzerland, especially if you're someone who comes up with really good ideas, or maybe even coming within a company to do things differently, maybe to reorganize the management team. I heard recently in a meetup, someone was saying from the US that, you know, in Switzerland he really saw a lack of good management as a need, and I agree with that. I've seen it myself too. People tend to not be very broad, not very international in their mindset. There's also a lot of technical specialists that are not able to make it to that next level where they have a bigger picture. You have people that it's not like the US where people are willing to work a lot. Some people really want to work, you know, the standard hours and become and stay a specialist. They're not interested in managing people. That's another problem. So to find people that are very happy to manage people, that are very happy to innovate, that are very happy to found companies, to lead teams, to be creative, I mean, that's going to be very, very wanted. So if you see yourself, about when I'm describing these different skills or capacities, if you see yourself like, wow, this is me, this is how I've been, and I've already created my company where I am and would love to expand to Switzerland, I think it's a great idea, you are definitely going to be in demand, because again, I haven't seen, and I've been now in the area for 10 years, I haven't seen really those wow type of managers or leaders that really get up. And I mean, there's some of them, I don't want to be too negative, but I think in Switzerland there's definitely a need for that, and you will be more than cherished and wanted if you have this kind of a mindset. So that's the last one. I guess I kept the good one for the end. What's the job trend or the type of role that will be really wanted in Switzerland? Definitely management. So I'm just trying to basically give you again, because I think most of you that will be watching this video or this presentation, you really were attracted by the Swiss job trends more than anything, and what kind of roles or jobs we'll be hiring, and where do I fit in that picture. So just to give you again the brief summary, if you're coming now or you're watching this video quickly: hospitality, IT, fiduciary, so accounting, you know, but accounting more at a senior level, because the basic accounting will be automated probably, mechanical engineering, transportation, construction, health sector, all health sector, especially for the elderly, skilled technicians, teaching, and finally top management. So that's what you need to remember to find a job in Switzerland. If you're in any of those industries, you will be, in my view, you will probably be successful, granted that you make it through the work permit type of stuff, and find an opening that fits you, and that you're trained for these jobs, obviously, for Switzerland. So any questions on the job trends, or where you see yourself fitting in the picture, and etc., or even something that's somewhat related to the topic, even if it's not 100%. I mean, usually people ask questions that are a little bit outside of the theme, but it's okay. And also, we'll be very happy if you post down below what you want to see in my YouTube videos. I will do more, I think, next year, of the short YouTube videos that are very easy to digest, you know, 5-10 minutes, on different topics, so that you know, you have a bunch of tips on different topics, always linked to Switzerland, obviously, because this is my niche, and this is why I operate, really working on career in Switzerland. So if you have some ideas or you have some questions where you say, you know, I want to hear more of this and less of that, and this is the format I enjoy, I think it will really help me to pinpoint, you know, where people need help. Also, I'm trying to keep up with the permit situation. This is not something that I do. I already mentioned, I can definitely recommend places where you can work with individuals on work permit. I don't do work permits. But again, if you're watching this video and you're actually in a different country than the EU, right now it's actually really strict. So even if you have the background in the fields I just mentioned, the chance now of being hired outside of EU is quite small, I would say, because, you know, there's already a lot of people that are targeting Switzerland within the EU economy. There's already a big market. So I don't know if that's going to change in the next years, but for the moment, to get access to the job market in Switzerland, you really need to be somewhat local. So if you're in a border country, maybe you're okay, you know, Germany, France, UK even. But then anything a little bit beyond that, it's already difficult. And then if you're in non-EU, then it's pretty much impossible. But again, what I tell people is that it depends on your energy and willingness to get a job, but it's going to be a tough, a really tough one. I mean, you would have to be extremely motivated, and, you know, and it takes a lot of resources and stuff. So just be aware that it's not going to be an easy fix, you know, to come to Switzerland. I'm just trying to be as transparent as I can. But if you're already in Switzerland, then it's different. And I think then that's why I have the most, I would say I can be the most honest to say, okay, if you're already in Switzerland, then those jobs will probably be a little bit easier for you to reach, because you have, maybe you followed a partner, or you're in the Swiss market, you have your residency, etc. So it becomes a little bit less difficult to go and chase the right positions for you. I mean, you're already local, you have the permit, you're available, much easier. So if I don't have any questions for this live, what I will do is get going. So again, you can definitely ask questions later. Let me know what you are interested in learning more about. Again, I'm judging based on my clients and where I see the needs, definitely understanding the market, where the jobs are, in which sectors and categories and parts of Switzerland, and how to prepare for those jobs, obviously, the training part. What I want to leave you with also is the 3 main job sites where you have an idea of the market. So if you're watching from abroad and you think, where can I get an idea of what jobs are hiring, and, you know, the basic jobs, because then I have a package where I have links to many job boards. Some of them I publish, some of them are for my private clients that work with me on the career tool, on the career planning. But the main job sites that you can watch are indeed.ch, jobs.ch, and jobup.ch. So if you have those 3, you have a good idea of the market and the job market, what's hiring, what's not hiring, which cities are the most, I would say, vibrant. You know, obviously Basel, Geneva, Zurich, that's where it's happening mostly. You still have jobs, you know, elsewhere, but if you're looking at where should I settle in Switzerland, where I have the most opportunities, I would stay near a big city, because otherwise, you know, it's getting a little bit tougher, especially for English-speaking jobs. So I think that's it on my end. Hope to get some questions later that I can answer. It was very nice to do this video and share with you the expertise that, or the things that I found done by experts, so that you have an idea or direction to take on where are the jobs of tomorrow. Happy to talk to you for the last one of the year, which is going to be December. So December, last one, which is next month. We will have our last Facebook Live for the year. I will try to publish it also a little bit more ahead of time. I'm trying to sometimes do my publishing and marketing and work with clients. Sometimes it gets a little bit hectic, but just trying to keep up with it. So the last Facebook Live is next month. You can go under events on Facebook and you see all the different events that are happening, because sometimes people send me a message and ask, where do I find this information? Obviously, it's on my events on Facebook. So it was very nice to talk to you again. Have a great lunch if you haven't had lunch yet. Have a great month in November. And again, don't hesitate to send me a message and I will reply to you. Thanks.